The game was dead. Like, it was dead for like 2 years before.
And then I don't want to go into a game being stuck on a role that I'm not as good at.
I think Queen is probably like one of the best releases they've ever done.
Welcome back to Overthink, the game show where I ask contestants a series of Overwatch hot takes to see where they stand. Feel free to play along in the comments to let me know what your opinions are on these hot takes. And if you'd like to actually be on an episode, go ahead and sign up in my Discord. I host these live on my Twitch channel most Sundays, so please go follow me on there to catch a show live. And lastly, please don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more content like this. Overwatch is currently in the best state it has ever been in, and people only complain because of nostalgia.
I think Overwatch is in its best state since launch, because not only do you see player counts and all these like old Overwatch 1 players coming back to the game, but you have new people from other games like Marvel Rivals trying it out, seeing what the hype is about, and seeing everything new.
I think balance-wise, I don't think it's ever going to be completely perfect. But when you look back on like the earlier seasons of Overwatch 1, especially playing Overwatch Classic when they brought that back a little while ago, you can kind of just see how unbalanced everything was then. And it's like night and day how good everything is now.
I think that I put myself in somewhat agree, because I feel like all the balancing and everything is excellent at the moment. I have a blast playing against, any enemy. I enjoy playing against anybody, but I feel like in some terms, I feel like the game has become somewhat greedy in a sense, in terms of monetization, in terms of collab skins, in terms of everything. I'm not a big fan of that, but of course we're playing Overwatch for the fundamental gameplay aspect, and I think in that sense, I think the game is almost perfect. I have so much fun with that, personally.
I do think that although Overwatch right now isn't perfect, and I do actually disagree with Reflex on the balancing being well, I do think it's a lot better comparatively to, from what I've seen of OG balancing, as well as I just overall think that the game is in a better spot. I mean, look at characters like, Vendetta, and they're actually doing something with the story now. Whether I agree with where they're going with it or not, I do think the fact that they're going more story or like originated might get us even back into like PvE, which I think is always a good thing.
The reason why I chose somewhat disagree is because while I agree, I love the game right now. I think it's a great game. I love it a lot. I play it every day. I think that it's extremely difficult to compare it to like how much aura Overwatch had back then. I didn't really play it. I'm a newer player myself, but the way people would talk about Prime Overwatch is crazy. Like everyone was on the game. Content creators, it got game of the year. I think it's the only multiplayer game to win game of the year. So I think it's hard to top that.
I think Overwatch 2 is a fragment of what Overwatch 1 was. They release a bunch of content, like quote unquote, but it's like store content and not like actual substance. We just got like 5 characters dropped, but I feel like a lot of them are underbaked. And also like actual in-game content is very rare. When's the last map we got? We got the last map like, it's been like a year. And at least in Overwatch 1, like we had very long stints without a balance patch, but it hasn't been like this. It's been Lucio Kiriko for like, 5 years? So I don't know how people can complain about double shield or goats whenever that stuff didn't last even a fraction of long as this. Unless the game goes back to 6v6, it's very simple and like easy to play compared to what it was before.
I see a couple divas shaking their heads. I can't tell if they're doing like a mating call with each other or they're disagreeing.
We were doing kind of a mating call, but
Okay.
I would say, I can actually add a little thing or two to that statement.
Go ahead.
As a player who did play during at least Overwatch 1, I kind of did have a big hiatus from Overwatch at one point because I was kind of sick and tired of the general meta with the double shields and everything. I just thought that was so exhausting. I wasn't a big fan of that arc, and I feel like the introduction of Overwatch 2 with the 1 tank 2-2 meta, now of course it did kind of feel like it was kind of forced upon to like benefit the Overwatch League stuff, to have one less team member so it could be like more cost effective. That is kind of the sour taste in this, you know what I mean? But I would say nowadays, I think I enjoyed the game so much more versus the 2 tanks, in my opinion.
I think Overwatch 2 in general was just a downgrade, not just because of like, so 6v6 is a big thing. Like a lot of the maps are not designed to be played in 5v5. And whenever Overwatch 2 came out, they're like, fix to the format swap was to add like 2 rocks on Route 66 or like 1 little bookcase here and there. The maps are like more empty and it plays differently than the way it used to play. And that's where a lot of the aura has gone. And then also the UI looks like a mobile game, and Overwatch 2 came out in like October of 22, and they're still adding in stuff that was in the original game.
Role queue is the best format for Overwatch.
As a support main, I played, in 2017 before role queue existed. And as a support main, I did go through a lot of games where, I was either the only support or, it was like 5 DPS, 1 support. And it was honestly pretty frustrating to try and beg people to have to play support and or tank in order to create a balanced match. So I do really like that role queue was added to the game.
What like not having role queue does, like specifically in like Marvel Rivals, how like team comp aren't always super balanced, and thinking about like the horror of what that could be like on Overwatch, it just kind of, I don't like it. I like the balancing that comes with role queue.
I think it can work since there might be skill gaps between roles. Like for me personally, I'm better at support than I am at damage, and I'm better at damage than I am at tank. And then I don't want to go into a game being stuck on a role that I'm not as good at because of like the roles that all my teammates are choosing. But I could also see why someone would not like it and would think that if you're not equally as good at every role, then you don't deserve the rank you have.
It kind of goes back into actually what everyone on the agree side was saying. I've played Marvel Rivals and they don't obviously have role queue, and that really sucks for supports or if you have to solo tank, right? But I also think that it can absolutely lead to a lot of fun moments where you have just like a full support team, right? So I think that although there are bad sides and there are good sides to it, I can't really say I particularly care either way, because I think I've had fun times and horrible times on both.
So I said disagree because I think that role queue, like I understand why they would add role queue to try to keep more balanced team comps, but I think it gets rid of a lot of flexibility that made original Overwatch really fun. Like one moment I always think about with role queue is back in like Pro League Overwatch, like Overwatch League, is when they were running goats and then Surefour pretended like he was on Brig and then swapped in spawn to Widow and killed the entire other team. I think it just completely gets rid of those like creative plays that somebody could do on swapping to a different role. Or even sometimes when I'm playing support, I'm like, I wish I could go DPS right now, or I wish I could go tank right now. But you can't switch to the role to fill like an empty need that your team has when maybe somebody else isn't picking up the slack and you're on a role that can't really compensate for it properly.
I agree with that. And then also I think that like the flexibility breeds creativity. Like going back to goats is like, oh, goats is hard meta, but like right before we added role queue to get rid of goats, like that fact. But whenever around the time they decided to do that, we found a way to deal with it. We had quad DPS with ball, with a Mercy. We had that going. We got rid of 4 tanks with a Moira. We got rid of 3-3. We got rid of 6-man. Like, how much do we have to give up in order for this to happen? And then also it comes around to, you're really not off-rolling too often in the first place. And then also, if you can't win a few games on your off-roll, you should just win on your main roll and climb it back up anyway at the end of the day.
Is there anybody that would like to switch stances after hearing other people speak?
After hearing the stuff about the creative plays from the disagree side, that kind of made me think about how when I play 6v6, there are some moments where I'm like, okay, let me switch to DPS real quick, make some plays that I think will be beneficial to the team, and then swap back to the role that I'm on. And I do like the flexibility that comes with not having role queue. So I'm changing from fully agree to like just somewhat agree.
Support is the easiest role in the game.
Personally, I don't play much support. However, when I do off-roll, I feel like it's not as demanding on mechanics depending on who you play. I think that's a big thing. As well as I feel like positioning is very intuitive. I feel like most of the time you're going to be either assisting a DPS on an angle or where your tank is. So I feel like positioning is a bit more intuitive on support. I think it's easier for entry and also mechanically less demanding. So those are like the things that I think I was bouncing between agree and somewhat agree, because I do think that it still requires a lot of knowledge about the game to succeed. Absolutely. And it's also your ults, knowing how to use your ults is like the most important thing.
It's a complicated topic to try to explain. The best way I can describe it is support has the capability to do everything while the other two roles do not. Your DPS cannot play the game if you're not doing things on support. Your tank cannot do anything if you're not doing anything on support. Also, support DPS output typically matches tank and DPS. They have free get out of jail free cards. They have mobility. They have all the best cooldowns. They have the best ultimates in the game. You have the most impact on the game on support. And at the end of the day, if something's not working, go Kiriko flank. Go Lucio, send it into the backline. Play Alari, play an angle with a soldier or something. Like, you have so many options on support that the other roles just do not have.
I think kind of going off of what Sky said, I also think like I just feel like I have a lot more options for what I can do with support than I do with other roles. And this also might be a personal thing for me. I feel like I don't have to keep track of as many things as I do when I play tank. I typically play lower aim supports. That's something I don't have as much freedom with if I'm playing damage. It's just also kind of this the responsibility of all the things you have to do that kind of, I guess I did just say that I don't feel like I have as much to keep track of as I do when I play tank, but I still feel like the importance of the role is what's stopping me from going all the way to fully agree.
I guess the reason I'm in somewhat disagree, I didn't want to like fully use my neutral, but also like as someone who only plays support, I find a lot of difficulty in like solo queuing it. So like I could be having a really good support match, and then at the very end my team could be like, you did nothing, and so it's just like a personal bias, I suppose. So I mean,
I do think it's like, to me, I feel like it's really nuanced, which is why I'm not fully in disagree, nor am I fully in agree. But I do think that I feel like when it comes to supports, there is a lot that they can do. And like, I feel like there's a lot less that like, I feel like DPS need to do. I think that tank is the hardest role in the game, but I don't think that support is easy by any means.
You might say that like I don't belong in the disagree because like I'm more in the disagree because I just straight up like I just disagree with the statement that it is the easiest. Like I think they all have their like easy parts. Like yeah, you could say Moira is the easiest character. She is the easiest to pick up. She doesn't have any aim, but you can't just play Moira and expect to win. They all have their like nuances, but like I just disagree with just the statement that it is the easiest. Like I do agree tank is the hardest. I do play tank as well. I just disagree with the statement as a fact.
All right, so Sky is shaking their head a lot. What do you have to say to that, Sky?
DPS is the hardest role to do anything on by a mile. But it's not about like if the role or the character's easy. It's about the like the amount of impact you have on a game. So like support can have impact everywhere, whereas DPS is limited by how much space their tank makes and like if their support comes with them on an angle. Because if you don't have support or your tank clearing space, they don't do anything. So their impact is limited by their teammates. Where support doesn't need anyone else to really do anything, you can just go and do it, which innately makes it easier to win because you have no other conditions that you need to have impact on your game.
Andrew, do you have anything to say back to that?
I mean, I do agree with that, but like, yeah, I still like stand where I'm stood, but like, yeah, I do, yeah, kind of agree with you. It is, yeah.
6v6 is better than 5v5.
I was an off-tank player, so I'm biased by default. They removed my role from the game. They killed my job. I talked about it earlier. Like, the maps are not designed for it. And, like, it's hard to think back on it now that we're, like, years down the line. But I remember distinctly when we came from 6v6 into the launch of 5v5, the maps were very open, and the game plays differently. And I can understand why some people like it, okay? Because we went from more of a brawl-centric with an off-tank taking angles to now it's a 3-2 with the main support and the flex DPS who are playing the role of the off-tank. But I feel like it dumbs it down a lot because now we don't have these kinds of matchups where We had 6-man, which was Monkey D.Va. We had Rein D.Va, Rein Zarya with May Brawl. Like, all of these other issues, which I also think wraps back around into the balance. We see Kiri Lucio all the time because they're versatile and they can be played everywhere because you don't have 2 tanks that can alleviate, and then you can play in a very elastic way to do whatever you want. We're shoehorned into all tanks must be generalists, and if they're not a generalist, they're just terrible. Or they have to get overkitted and overbuffed. Roadhog, D.Va, Zarya, they've all gotten like giga juiced because they do not work in the format.
I really like 6v6, but I also really like 5v5. It's just kind of one of those things that it really depends on the mood I'm in. I just like the matchups that you can get having like an extra teammate and stuff like that.
I would go maybe in like somewhat agree, but like I feel they both have their place in Overwatch. I do like running around as a raid boss on like Reinhardt and just rolling a whole team, but I do love also having like a second tank just to help me. I like both. The current state of the 6v6 modes, I feel like the fact that we can only play open queue kind of, because I do like role queue, because there is only open queue, I will never play 6v6. If they did like maybe just for like a week there was just only 6v6 role queue and like only 5v5 open queue just to get that other side, I would do that, but as it stands, just on the neutral.
I do understand the pain the 6v6 lovers have. You know, they've grown accustomed. They really loved it throughout the Overwatch 1 stuff. You know what I mean? But I think kind of 6v6, it might be the reason why I kind of left. Because as I mentioned earlier, I was a massive fan of the... No, I wasn't a massive fan of the double shield meta. And I felt it was kind of frustrating to some extent to just... I didn't feel it was personally fun, in my opinion. And if you loved it, go ahead. I ain't stopping you, of course. But I think when 5v5 came around, I just started enjoying the game so much more for some reason.
I have such a visceral hatred for 6v6 purely because nonstop from like season 1 until they acknowledged it in season 11, every single thing was just 6v6. Like every single social media post, there was someone asking for 6v6. Even if it was just a little promo for a collab, even if it was just some random tweet, and content creators also like pushing for it. It was just so annoying to me seeing everyone push for 6v6 when they just had it and trying something new, and it felt so annoying. Truly, I couldn't care less, which we had, but because of just the amount of people pushing and making 6v6 this like kind of, we need 6v6, we need 6v6, we need 6v6, it just kind of got to the point of just like, I'm a 5v5er purely because I'm just annoyed at the amount of talk from 6v6ers.
I totally get that, like, it might have been annoying, but, like, the reason for that is because Overwatch just hard launched, like, 5v5 when they turned to Overwatch 2. So they completely got rid of the game mode that we all knew and played. Like, they didn't test it out or anything. They just completely got rid of it. And like what Sky was saying, like, they just completely got rid of like the off tank role. So a ton of characters just completely changed in how they were played. And they didn't really bring back 6v6 for a very long time. And the way that we do have 6v6 now in the game is still nothing like how it was before. Like, the balancing is just totally a mess because they've kind of just abandoned it. So in a way, it just kind of felt like the old players kind of just got abandoned by Overwatch because the game was dead. Like, it was dead for like 2 years before they swapped to Overwatch 2. Like, they said, yeah, we'll update it, and they never did. And then they just completely got rid of it.
Anybody else have anything to say on that?
I think that's a very disingenuous argument. Yeah, people were talking about it and asking for it, but you think that's a reason that, like, I don't understand the mindset of, oh, I don't like it because of that. How do you expect, if people don't use their voice, how do you expect it to get changed? And even with everyone talking about it, it took them over like a year and a half. And Aaron Keller just came out and he was like, we should have addressed it sooner. And then right now, even so, like, this is probably another tangent, but they didn't even implement 6v6 properly or give it like the real shot that it needs. And then they're kind of just written it off as a failed experiment because they didn't give it what it needed to actually experiment and try it. It got thrown into a side queue with open queue, and it's just kind of sat and rot. We didn't get a balance patch for like 6 months.
Is there anybody that would like to change their stance after hearing others speak?
Yeah, I honestly just like couldn't decide at first, because I don't know, I like both modes, but like when I do think back to like some of the stuff people were saying about like the old roles and stuff, I do think that was very healthy for the game, like being able to have that support. And yeah, like a lot of the maps are still made for that old mode, for 6v6. Like some of them are just, there's so much space without having two tanks there, and there's just nobody really to help the other tank out. Like it's entirely up to the tank and the support.
New heroes are way more fun and or balanced than the heroes released in the early era of the game.
I didn't come here for the sense that I find them balanced, but I did come here in the sense that I think that they are intended to be fun, right? If you notice with like all the new heroes, they've all been like disgustingly broken on launch for the most part. Like Hazard, there's a point where Matra was even broken, but the people that I think still reign to this day in like comp are like Kiriko, as we talked about earlier, and Sojourn. And I even see like a lot of Freyas in comp just kind of dominate, and they really haven't ever gotten like a good, healthy nerf. So by design, I think that they are intended to be fun, whether or not they're good for the game or not.
I think it's kind of both. Like, I think Overwatch 2, there's been a variety of like releases. Like, I think, like, for example, Lifeweaver, horrible launch. Everyone can agree on that. He was like pitiful state. Nobody was playing him except like the people who wanted to kind of torture themselves.
Boger.
And then you had like heroes like Sojourn who were broken until like they got a kind of mini rework, I guess, for her railgun. Kiri's still extremely strong. You have characters like Wuyong who are like really strong on launch. Now they're decent. It's been a variety, at least now. I can't speak for what they were on launch in Overwatch 1, but at least right now, it feels very kind of just a giant mixed bag.
Overwatch 1 definitely had its fair share of not so good hero releases, like how busted Brigitte was when she came out, and how bad Symmetra was on her like very like day one launch. But then we've also had plenty of Overwatch 2 heroes, like Lifeweaver was in the trash can when he released. Mauga was way too much. And then obviously like Sojourn and Kiriko, who are still not as way too much as they were at the start. They've always been present like since the start of Overwatch 2. So I don't think Overwatch 2 is really... I like what they've been trying with some of the newer heroes, but I don't think they've done a great job of releasing them in a much more balanced way than they did with Overwatch 1.
May I just add up on something real quick?
Uh-huh.
I would also like to say that with any live service game, there is inevitable like power creep of any new characters. You know what I mean? And it's an unfortunate thing to say, right? As much as we love this game, there is bound to be either characters that go straight down the trash, just like with Lifeweaver, and there are some characters that still get complained about to this day, like Kiriko and Sojourn. So I think it's maybe the consequence of us still playing live service games, to be honest. That's all I gotta say.
May speaking. I personally disagree with that take because I feel like one of the most fun characters to play in the game for me personally is Ana, who was released very early on in the game. She's always been a strong character, and another strong character I think that is fun to play is Baptiste as well. And I feel like though the newer characters are quite fun to play, I think that there have been some very strong early game release candidates that are super fun to play, like Ana and Bap.
Can I question May's statement, if that's fine?
Yeah, of course.
If that's all right. What would you say about Sombra then, for example, if I may ask?
I think that Sombra really shook up the game. Whether it was good or bad, I can leave that up to interpretation.
Of course.
But yeah, I definitely think that Sombra was a very impactful release, is what I think. And I feel like the people who mained her, I feel like they did find her fun.
I just want to say that Sombra made me quit playing Overwatch for a little bit when she came out.
Valid.
Is there anybody that would like to change their stance?
I think that the characters are like abhorrently broken in terms of balance. Don't even get me started on Vendetta. But in terms of fun factor, I think that some of the characters are more enjoyable than they were in Overwatch 1. I think Queen is probably like one of the best releases they've ever done. And she's like in the middle, like she's at the start And then I think Soj is also a very fun character if they can get a rework on her done right.
Battle Pass systems are better than loot box systems.
I think that though I did really love loot boxes, I feel like the current system that they have now, albeit like I don't spend that much money on the game, but I do spend some money on the game as a working adult. Like I do like that system, and I like that you can earn loot boxes for free, but also if you want to spend money on the battle pass, and then you can. And I like having that option of both like the loot boxes and the battle pass, which is why I'm only in somewhat agree.
Inherently depends on how the battle pass is. Like, I think Overwatch's is pretty good. I think you can guarantee get some skins, while loot boxes, you could just get some random crap, like player icons, sprays, whatever. Or you get a skin for a character you don't play at all. So you're kind of just bummed with that. But if there's a battle pass, you can see everything that's in it. You can maybe like buy it, maybe get some extra credits for skins. Maybe you just want it because there's one skin for your character. I do think there's still some improvement they could do, like permanent battle passes or putting like the old battle pass skins and stuff in the hero gallery. But
I'm pretty indifferent with both battle passes and loot boxes. I like being able to look at battle pass and see, okay, what skins are here? Is it going to be worth buying this season, or should I just wait? But then I also like the gambling aspect of loot boxes. I like not knowing what I'm going to get.
The reason I'm in the disagree side, I would go in the neutral, but the reason I'm on the disagree side is like the current system allows you to get skins, although not all of them, but you can get skins without paying money. In the current Battle Pass system, there are no skins that you can get for free. There is like zero. You can't even get a mythic. So I think inherently at the moment, the loot box system, the loot box part of the system is better overall. And I like the fact that the loot boxes are free. You can pay for the Battle Pass, which will get you more loot boxes, but you will just get them free, while the Battle Pass is paid, so you can get them for free. But I wouldn't get rid of the Battle Pass because it's guaranteed loot and it is revenue for the game.
I think loot boxes were kind of bad in a sense of the gambling aspect. I wasn't a big fan of the fact that it was a monetizable gambling system. You know what I mean? And I say this as a person who plays a lot of gacha games as well, so it's kind of ironic coming from me, but I wasn't a big fan of the fact that you had to gamble if you wanted to get some of the skins. Granted, in Overwatch 1, you could have still gotten a lot of legacy coins to eventually buy the skins you'd want, so that was somewhat of a good system. But I feel like battle passes these days, I've never been a big fan of them. I feel like I just haven't found any of the themes interesting at all, and I feel like all the effort and quality into the skins that make them interesting go to the shop skins rather than the actual battle pass skins. Now, of course, some people might enjoy some of the themes more, to each of their own, right? When it comes to the themes of the battle pass, like the Talon and Overwatch skins these days, or on this battle pass right now. If you're a big fan of the lore, I'm a big fan of the lore. I think it's kind of sick, but would I use them though? Not really. And also one more thing, the hero exclusivity thing that was happening way earlier, stupidest thing they've done. Right, that's me. That's it.
I disagree in the sense of the way Overwatch's loot boxes worked. They were free, they had a weighting system to them. So if you didn't own something, you had a higher weight to get something you didn't own already, and then you got a bunch of currency. So like, let's say I got a bunch of duplicates out of my loot boxes, I could just buy, literally, like it got to a point in Overwatch 1, an event would come out, I could buy everything for free by the time the event came out, and it would wrap around every event. And then it's also battle passes are filled with a bunch of filler, and they cost me actual money. I gotta eat, bro. I got other things to pay for. And two, it's like we're in an attention-based economy. So battle pass, bunch of crap. Go to Battlefield, go play Call of Duty, go play Destiny 2, log on to Marathon, log on to Arc Raiders, get on Overwatch, get on Marvel Rivals. I don't have time for that, okay? Let me log on, okay? I get 10,000 experience, I get a loot box, I get something. Oh, wow. And also it's free in terms of Overwatch, but that's a whole different like ballpark in terms of like free to play and $40 and whatnot.
All right, is there anybody that would like to change their stance after hearing others speak?
I was in somewhat agree and I moved to somewhat disagree because initially I was thinking about the original lawsuit that Overwatch went through. I find the fact that they kind of promoted gambling and the fact that you could buy loot boxes, I found that to be a little bit, predatory, right? But with Sky bringing up the fact that it's like an attention-based market and they kind of force you to log on and they do put a bunch of filler in the battle passes. They actually used to stick with themes, if you guys remember the Mercy, like the swap watch. But nowadays they don't really fully stick to the theme and it's very annoying. So I guess I kind of disagree with, what I thought just a couple seconds ago.
Subscribe to ChristalRaine!
ChristalRaine!
To the 1, to the 1, to the 3, I'm here to party. GG. A giant gorilla can keep up with me.